Hi, this is Cheryl Gallant, your Conservative Member of Parliament for the Constitution-respecting riding of Renfrew-Nipissing-Pembroke. Yesterday, a Liberal-appointed judge ruled that Trudeau's use of the Emergencies Act was unlawful. He also ruled that the measures put in place under Trudeau's order were unconstitutional. Unlawful and unconstitutional describes much of what Trudeau did in response to the pandemic. Many Canadians forget Trudeau's first instinct in March of 2020 was to try and shut down Parliament for 2 years so he could rule by decree. In June of 2021, Trudeau said he opposed the vaccine mandates and called them divisive. 2 months later, Trudeau called his early election and divided the country by running on vaccine mandates, even though 85% of adults had already received their COVID shots. Justin Trudeau divided the country. He violated people's rights because it was popular. When those people stood up for their rights, they were demonized by the Liberals and much of the legacy media. Having successfully painted 15% of Canadians as deplorable and unacceptable, it was all too easy for Trudeau to unlawfully invoke the Emergencies Act. Yesterday was a vindication for those who stood up for freedom and democracy. During the public inquiry, Trudeau said he stood by his decision. Yesterday, Trudeau was too afraid to face reporters, so he sent Freeland out instead. Rather than owning up to their unlawful actions, the Liberals said they would use more of your tax dollars to appeal this decision. Now, this would be the same government that said it wouldn't appeal the Omar Khadr decision, the same government that would not appeal the court decision that declared anyone could get assisted suicide. The Trudeau Liberals are so full of themselves, they can't even conceive that they might lose an appeal. In his ruling, Justice Mosley said he was sympathetic towards the government. The judge took a dim view of the protesters, but at the end of the day, the law is clear. To invoke the Emergencies Act, there must be a serious threat of violence. Bouncy castles, hot tubs, and dance parties do not constitute a serious threat of violence. Justin Trudeau loves to apologize for every mistake a previous Canadian government has ever made. It is time for Trudeau to apologize for his unlawful and unconstitutional actions. Don't hold your breath, though. Justin Trudeau's minions, with the help of the paid-off media, are going to redirect the Canadian public's revulsion of their leader towards Conservatives. He's trading in his race card for a Trump card. He's weaponizing the fear and hatred many people have for the former president of the United States. While Trudeau's out to save his own neck by demonizing a potential future leader of our closest trading partner, he's setting up everyday Canadians for more misery. Will Canadians fall for it? Watch for the signs. They'll use adjectives like MAGA to describe Conservatives. They want to equate the truckers' convoy that started when Trudeau prevented those without COVID shots from working to America's January 6th. Trudeau equates these 3 weeks of illegal parking and honking to the siege on Capitol Hill. To top off Trudeau's incitement of hatred against his opponents, there will be an accompanying bribe. Signs are that it'll be the promise of a universal basic income. This practice has failed in every country where it's been tried. It failed in Ontario when former Premier Wynne tried it out. It failed when the feds brought in CERB, then turned around and asked for the money back. Trudeau also acted responsibly when he encouraged people to cross in illegally into Canada at Roxham Road. But he hadn't balanced our resources with the number of people we could house and provide for. And now we have people living in tents outside of towns and cities in sub-zero temperatures. According to former NDP MP Peter Stauffer, we even have military veterans living on the streets in Nova Scotia. Rural areas where already had severe doctor shortages. Now, people would rather die than wait 8 hours on the floor of a hospital emergency room. Trudeau has ruined almost everything that was good about Canada. But he'll use all the money he can put us further into debt with to convince you otherwise. Aren't you tired of living in fear? Let's make sure he gets the boot when an election does come along. Recently, global warming put Albertans into a deep freeze and electricity shortage. The radical climate warriors ruling Canada have ordered the provinces to make the switch to non-carbon energy sources. This forced at least one Alberta hospital to close its doors to emergency patients because it couldn't keep the heat on. You may recall Justin Trudeau in 2019, fresh off the plane from a meeting with his World Economic Forum chums. He descended the steps of his jet, proclaiming that provincial electricity grids shall be at net zero by 2035. The artificial deadline had previously been set at 2050. In 2023, Trudeau trespassed on yet another tranche of provincial jurisdiction when he decreed a new batch of electricity regulations. Now remember, the Liberals were booted out of government in Ontario for driving up the cost of hydro. The architect of that debacle, we know as the Green Energy Act, Gerald Butts, was already with Trudeau in Ottawa, planning the same misery for the rest of the nation. When former Ontario Premier Wynne lost in 2018, all her kids in short pants swarmed to Ottawa to join the feeding frenzy on our federal tax dollars. They helped Gerald infest every government department with apocalyptic climate change propaganda. Billions of dollars have been blown on turbines that are useless unless the wind is blowing, and solar panels that don't work when the sun isn't shining. So-called renewable energy is not reliable energy. In our climate zone, a mix of power sources has been successful. Of the 45 wind farms in Alberta, 33 were producing power while Alberta was in its deep freeze. Wind power production coming online that Monday was in sharp contrast to the Thursday evening when nearly every wind farm shut down as temperatures approached minus 30 degrees Celsius. Below that temperature, brittle behavior of materials can significantly weaken them, running the risk of catastrophic failure. To avoid another risk to their electricity grid, Albertans were asked to be diligent and avoid unnecessary electricity use. They were asked to unplug their electric vehicles. Is that the scenario we want replicated across our nation when we're hit with Canadian winter weather? That's precisely what Trudeau is planning. Part of the assumption is that we'll have small modular reactors dotting the map, generating emissions-free electricity in the next 8 years. By 2035, it'll be a miracle if we have even one SMR licensed and operating. It took a decade just to get approval for a disposal site for low-level waste like gloves and booties. The current environment minister can't even say the word nuclear out without going into a meltdown himself. Just like these NDP Liberals don't take defense security seriously, they won't make energy security a priority either. Live from Ottawa, this is Cheryl Gallant.